love entrepreneurs. I love individuals who are attempting to take control of their own lives. And I have to tell you, there's no better way in the world to do it than be an entrepreneur. I am known as the bootstrap entrepreneur here in the United States. As Scott had mentioned, I've now founded or co-founded 33 businesses. Of those 33 businesses, 11 have been ugly failures. 11 of them have been flat, outright failures. And I'm actually prouder of the failures than I am of the successes. However, there have been 13 of these businesses that went on to become multi-million-dollar businesses. And each of them were started with $5,000 to $10,000 of startup capital. I'm a hardcore individual that teaches and believes that it's better to take control of your own destiny, oftentimes not using venture capital. Indeed, venture capital is a viable option for some individuals, but oftentimes we way overuse it. So my message today to you is going to be about taking control of your personal life. There's two sides to this. There's what I call the head of the entrepreneur, and the heart of the entrepreneur. This presentation usually takes about an hour and 10 minutes, so I'm going to absolutely fly. I expect you to take notes. I expect you to watch carefully, but I'm going to indeed teach you today the zigzag principle. There's two sides of victory. There's the public victory, which we've had a little bit of public victory this past week, haven't we, Curtis? Indeed, zigzag principle hit the top of most of the bestseller lists. However, the public victory isn't as important to me as the private victory. The private victory is where individuals, it changes life and it has impact. And indeed, that's why I wrote this book. I don't claim to be an author. I don't claim to be a public speaker, but I claim to be the best darn bootstrap entrepreneur there is in this United States. So my goal today is to hopefully pass a little bit of that knowledge and information on to you. So we're going to go rapid fire. You guys ready? Everybody ready? Come on, give me some affirmation here. There we go. All right, let's fire. Most people think the road to success is a straight line. The reality is it's messy, it's dirty, it's ugly, and it involves a lot of mucking around. I used to work for a guy named Christiansen, an infamous entrepreneur here in Utah. And he used to always make the statement that entrepreneurship is wandering in the fog. By the way, co-founded Huntsman Chemical, Deer Valley, and Vinca. And so a little bit of good bias. I didn't buy it at the time, I now buy it. Entrepreneurship is oftentimes more messy than this pragmatic, perfect, logical approach that you end up taking through your life. Rivers do not flow in straight lines. Mountain detours have contours all over them. Did anyone drive directly to work or to school today? Did anyone drive directly here? Come on, raise your hand if you drove directly here or came directly here. Come on, please, some sucker, please raise your hand. If you did, you would have hit a student, you would have crashed into the heritage halls, you would have ran a stoplight, and you wouldn't have made it even 10 feet. Do you know that the missions to the moon were only on track 2% of the time? 98% of the time, they were off target. 9 out of 10 small businesses fell. 9 out of 10 small businesses fell. That's unacceptable odds in my opinion. And I believe that the reason that most of them fell is they set a crazy big hairy goal and then they race directly to it with wild abandon, exactly like that skier does, and then we wonder why they crash and they burn. The reality is there is a better model. I first discovered this model when I was writing the book Bootstrap Business. I wrote this book kind of as failure, and as part of writing the book, we set a company up with $5,000 and used it as the test case to simulate all of the concepts in the book. The company actually got a lot of attention, and the book also got a lot of attention. And we sold that business starting with $5,000 for it went to $1.2 million the first year in revenue following the principle. So fundamentally it worked. And we ran into this quandary one day as we were sitting on the whiteboard. We had this crazy big hairy goal out there, and it would have taken $500,000 to $600,000 to fund it. And my partner and I, Ron Porter, were looking at it and said, what in the heck do we do? And we drew a zigzag on the board. That was indeed deception of the zigzag principle. After I sold this company about a year or so ago, I took my family to the Himalayas. I took my Timothy Tyrus and Alexander Hansman, the whole entire family. And while in the Himalayas, if you get above about 12,000 feet, you die of cerebral edema and pulmonary edema. And I wasn't really excited about having my family die. And thinking about this, we looked at Everest, and I said, how crazy would it be to just go charging right up Mount Everest and say, oh, only 4 out of 5 of my kids died. Pretty good. We beat the odds. That's not an acceptable model, is it? What I discovered is that as we were hiking, most of the time we were never going directly towards the goal. Indeed, we were chanting with the monks. When you put me on, come on, you guys chant with me. We were chanting with the monks. We were hanging out in the Tingbache Monastery. We were taking some little diversion to Apa Sherpa's lodge and eating in the tea houses. We were very seldom going directly towards the goal. What was the result? It took a month. But on a beautiful spring morning, the 1st of June, we stood with our entire family above 17,000 feet, had a beautiful view of Nuptse and Lhotse. Then what did we do? I sent my younger kids back because it was just too much risk. The goal was too high, but I did take my older sons and several days later, took a charge up and had a beautiful view looking down on Everest Base Camp, down into the Khumbu Icefall, straight across Camp 1 and Camp 2, and we yielded success by going indirectly for our goal. That month was the point that I came to the conclusion the zigzag principle had to be written. For several years, McGraw-Hill and some of the big companies had been approaching me about writing it. And that's where it all simulated and came together. The result was a zigzag principle. The book was released about 10 days ago, and indeed it did hit most of the best-selling list this past week. And we created a company called Frog Hair. Curtis Blair, the general manager of Frog Hair, sitting right there. We used Frog Hair as the test case to apply the principles, and I'm really pleased to announce that that company has grown from basically $5,000 to $4 or $5 million this year. So the principles fundamentally work. This is the best I have to offer. And now what I'd like to do is quickly go through the components. I'm going to rapid fire on you, so you guys take notes, and I'm going to query you back. I'm going to give you the 10 principles and steps and components of the zigzag principle. Number 1, the first portion is setting a firm foundation. I used to build a lot of business that would flash in the pan. They'd come and they'd go really quickly, and I decided that was a lot of work for not a lot of fun. So this time around, I spent a lot of time working on firm foundation. Step number 1. Step number 1 is to assess your resources. When I was in college, actually sneaking up to this very room, I drove a 1972 Dodge Colt. This Dodge Colt had been totaled 4 times. The head leaked, or the head was cracked, the oil pan was leaky, and I only dared drive it around campus, not more than about 5 or 6 miles, otherwise it would overheat and die. I didn't even dare take it on the freeway, but it was a vehicle. It was a great vehicle. I now drive an Audi A6. I love my Audi A6. I can jump in it and fly to California in a moment's notice, and my biggest risk is that I'm going to get a speeding ticket because I've got my satellite radio up too much. A great vehicle. But it's not what Donald Trump drives. He has a Learjet. He flies to France in a moment's notice, and it's certainly not a Jeep. I'd never dare take it up in the mountains. So the vehicle that you drive or the resources that you have right now, you need to identify them. That's the equivalent of your vehicle. Most people think when I say resources, we're talking about money. Money is the least important part of the equation as an entrepreneur. It's the least important. It's one of them, but it's just not that significant. Here are the important parts, and this is called the value equation. The first is intellectual capital. It's what you're smart at. It's what you're good at. And I don't quite frankly care what it is. I have a brother that bangs on his head and can play Beethoven's Fifth through his head. That's intellectual capital. And he could indeed make a lot of money at that if he applied that properly. So the first thing that you have to do is assess what is your intellectual capital. Whatever you do that you do really well, you need to identify that. Plus is service. Here's the difficulty. Most people think it's a negative. They use a negative. Plus is service. You have to serve people, and relationship capital is arguably the most important part of the equation. It's the powerful people in your life that can value that intellectual capital that you have. If you have intellectual capital and you serve people of influence and do it equal sign in the form of a business, it always yields financial capital. Does that make sense? Okay, most people think that, hey, I got to have a lot of money to make money. How'd you take $5,000 and build it into million-dollar businesses? It's a meaningless part of the equation. The money's really, quite frankly, meaningless. It's the intellectual capital. Get smart, take it, serve individuals, and that will always yield financial capital. All right, so step number one of the zigzag principle is assess your resources. That includes money, it includes time, it includes how long of a duration that you have, it includes your intellectual capital, it includes your financial capital, all the resources that you have at your disposal is step number one. All right, step number two, set your beacon in the fog. Indeed, I believe very strongly in setting crazy, big, hairy, audacious goals. Goals that are so crazy that they just absolutely inspire you. It's really important that you do that. Now, the irony is oftentimes you're not racing directly towards that, but you need something that will inspire you. And I'm here to tell you, if your primary goal is making money, you've got the wrong goal. Money is a very, very poor motivator at the end of the day. What gets you up in the really hard moments is something bigger and greater than money. Driving a BMW or flying in a Learjet is actually very fleeting when things really hard hit. You have to have a big goal that inspires you. My personal goal right now is to educate 1,000 young men and young women in third world countries before I turn 50. That's a big, crazy, hairy goal. And if I went directly for it right now, I would indeed go bankrupt. So you need to set what your big, crazy, hairy goal is. Step number two is setting your beacon in the fog. Step number three is what I call catalyzing statements or adding emotional fuel. It's really important to set that big, hairy goal, but if you just put it out there, blah, then people are not going to get it. The catalyzing statement or emotional fuel is what draws and gets people to come join you in your journey. A good example of this is John F. Kennedy.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
For years, John F. Kennedy had the goal to have the top space program in the world. No one was really buying it, really pretty blah, huh? But then he gets in front of Congress and he says, I believe that this country should commit itself to put a man on the moon and return him to Earth safely before the end of this decade. We united and the country gathered together all its resources and went on this crazy goal. The goal wasn't enough, it had to have a catalyzing statement. Another example that I like to use is this Bill Gates. This squirrely, geeky guy had the goal to have a top software company in the world. No one even knew what software was. But he'd publicly proclaimed that for years and years and years. And then one day he stood before a large audience and he says, I envision a world with a personal computer in every office and a personal computer on every desktop. When he said that, everyone thought he was freaking nuts. They really did. What's happened? How many PCs do you have on your desk? I mean, not counting your cell phone, iPhone, and all your other technology. Indeed, that allowed that vision to come forward. So catalyzing statement is the fuel that you add to your goal that allows the vision to come true. And Curtis, if I was to nod your head, Curtis, that's probably one of the most important things you can do to actually build your company and get significant traction is a catalyzing statement. And you'll see why here in a minute when we go to guardrails. Okay, step number one is what? Step number two? Step number three? Okay, step number four is the value system. This is the doorkeeper in your company. What I've discovered, it's more important who you don't let in rather than who you let in. And oftentimes competence isn't the most important part of the equation here. It's, are you aligned with the values? And when I say values here, yes, some of it's moral values, but quite frankly, more than that, it's the values of the organization, what you trust, what you want, what you have in there. Some of the values of Curtis's organizations is stuff like teamwork. Work, win, and waddle together. Curtis and I spent, probably a couple, 3, 4 days hardcore just focusing, defining what the values of the company are. And then you put tricky questions in your interview. Every interview that we do with our employees, with our vendors, and yes, even with our customers, we'll reject customers if they don't align with the values. We check for competence, we check for culture, and most importantly, the final interview of every employee is the value fit. Let me give you a quick example of this. I have the coolest office in the entire world. My office looks out over a little swamp area out onto a golf course with the mountains right behind the ducks are flying. Am I working? My mic working? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, super. So I got this beautiful view, and then I turn the other way, and across the way is a debt collection company. And I look at all the people coming out of the debt collection company every day, and it's like, they're just ticked off. I mean, you can imagine what their life is like on a daily basis. And then I look the other way, and then there's this little entertainment company. And they come out of their offices just kind of skipping along and all happy and dancing, you know. And I'm going, gosh, two different values here. So I kind of, in my mind, I'd come up, okay, what are the values of this debt collection company? And I think, okay, stuff like be fair and honest in my transactions, to have exactness in and hold people accountable. Does that sound like a value they would have? To make sure that I collect all bills on time. Do those sound like reasonable values? Okay, now let's go over and look at the values of the dancing entertainment company. To delight and entertain all of our customers, to get standing ovations, to have wonderful interchange and dialogue with all of my clients. Do those sound like reasonable values? Kind of does, huh? Okay, let's flip them. Take the entertainment company over here to the debt collection company, to delight and entertain all of our clients, to get standing ovations, to have them always wanting to come back. It didn't work, did it? Do you see how messed up that is? So very carefully accentuating what your values are with the company that you're aligned with and the culture of the company is critically important. Curtis, just stand up quickly and tell me 3 or 4 real quickly. One sentence, 3 or 4, what are some of your top values?
Work, win, and waddle.
Which is cooperation. We do not have rock stars, no Michael Jordans in our company. And one of the questions, it's a trick question, is tell us about the last great success that you had in your company. And if they get up and they say, oh man, I'm Michael Jordan, I'm shooting, I'm swishing, I'm awesome, done, they're out. Don't even go to the next step. But if they get up and they say things like, oh yeah, we had a great success, and Joe was really a part of that equation, and we had a great win, and they're talking teamwork, man, they're in. Okay, give me another one.
Cultural sensitivity.
Cultural sensitivity on a daily basis. Our company works with dear friends in New York that are Jews. Pakistan, for crying out loud, they're trying to blow us up. We work with Pakistan on a daily basis. India, Japan, Mexico, where else? China?
Yeah.
So cultural sensitivity, understand the people and places of the world. Give me one more.
Financial fitness.
Okay, awesome. Financial responsibility. Okay, so we have 11 in our organization, but setting the values is a critical part of it. That indeed ends the firm foundation. If you plant your zigzag zig on that, then your organization will endure. We then get to the fun part, the zigging and the zagging, and this is what it looks like. Most people, when they're going for something, they take it, they set their goal, they may do all these things, they write their pro forma model, they write their business plan, and indeed I do that, but I don't spend the lion's share of my time on that. I set the goal, I look at it, what do you think the first thing I do is? I divert. I go over here. I don't even go towards the goal. I find the quickest path to profitability that I can find in my genre. I call this phase the dancing in my tutu phase. I won't dance naked. I'm a BYU graduate and I have values. That violates my value system. But I would, honestly and truthfully, I would put a tutu on and I would go dance down in that street if that's what it took me to get to profitability in the early stages.
Like always yodeling.
Yeah, the yodeling. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I just saw my son. Is he in the class here? I'm assuming you're talking about the BYU. No?
Howling, the little giant ladder company.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Stood on top of this ladder and yodeled.
There you go. Whatever it takes to get to profitability. And indeed, we did that in Castaway in the early stage. I swore on my life I will never do SEO for anyone. I ran about.com. I was general manager for a number of years. I knew this stuff cold. This was a secret I used for myself, no one else. What do you think the first thing I did when I started Castaway, which was an SEO agency? I did what I said. I put my tutu on and I went and did SEO. We went into Rockefeller Plaza, went up to Warner Music Group, and I walked out 5 minutes later with a $20,000 sign-in bonus and a $30,000 a month retainer by dancing in my tutu, doing what I said I wouldn't want to do. Step number one is assess your resources, look at your goal, set your catalyzing statement, put your value system, and then don't go directly for your goal. What's the quickest way you can get to profitability? You see, it feels so much better when you're chasing something and you have oxygen. You're able to breathe rather than dying along the way. Zig number one's always chase profitability. Zag number two, add resources and processes. Phase number one is hard, miserable, tough work, and you have to bound it because you're the butcher, the baker, and the patty cake maker. You charge, you race to profitability. When you get to profitability, the second phase is then you add resources and you add processes. This is when you hire individuals. This is also when you start documenting on that little path what worked and what didn't work. You very carefully outline and document that. I like to tell the story when I was just a kid growing up. I had my own lawn mowing business. And I was going really good, and I had this great idea to go get all my friends mowing for me so that I could scale it a little bit. And what I discovered, total mayhem. They were pouring gas on the mowers in the middle of the lawn, killing people's lawns. Everyone was saying how sloppy it was. There was grass clippings, all this crazy stuff going on that was left. And I had to come up with a sequence and a 10-step level of processes. And it doesn't need to be really hard or really complicated. So I came up with my 10 rules, rich 10 rules of what everyone does. Pour the gas on the sidewalk, not on there. You always trim before you go around. When you go to the door, you put a great big smiley face on there and says, "Can I mow your lawn today?" And you mow in straight lines. And then when you get done, you look really exhausted and pull your shirt out a little bit, but still smiley, wearily past them. An invoice with the receipt and says, "Thank you for letting me mow your lawn," and then you'd get a better tip. And so we had a 10-step process, and everything was wonderful. So processes don't have to be a hard, really difficult thing. Oftentimes people complicate them. In Curtis's business, one of the really fun things that we did is we posted $20 bills all over the floor. We identified the 13 different functional areas of the business, and we posted that title with $20 bill. The office staff came in and we says, anyone who writes the process and it can't be more than 10 steps gets the $20 bills. It was like Easter egg hunt, and we had those processes all documented like in 5 minutes or less. So you don't have to overcomplicate it, but you have to document your processes. And more importantly, of what works, it's what doesn't work. Okay, step number two, Zig number two, is add resources and processes. Step number three, Zig number three, is scale. So here's what we got. Number one, drive to profitability. Zag number two, add resources and processes. Step number three is add scale. Now this sounds pretty logical and rudimentary and fundamental, but you know what? It's actually a lot harder than it sounds. Because what most people want to do is scale it before they nail it. And I know everyone's heard nail it and scale it. But most people try reversing this. This sequence forces you to nail it and get it figured out before you try to scale it. So the third step is to always add a scale element. You add something that can replicate great or significantly. In the book, Bootstrap Business, I told one chapter was, I never want to be a doctor and certainly never a lawyer. Not that I have anything against doctors or lawyers, but the reality is if a doctor's not snapping on a rubber glove and poking it someplace very tender, or an attorney popping on his glove and poking it very tender, then they're not making money. And so businesses that scale are indeed really the only place to land. And this is where the business actually gets really fun. Now, as I'm running my zigs and my zags, I only look 3 ahead. I'll set my eye on the distant target, and then I'll sequence 3 ahead, allocating 65%, 25%, and 10%. Three zigs and zags is what I'm looking. Exactly like you were hiking a mountain, or exactly like you were skiing. You really don't, unless you're a master grand chess tournament guy that can see 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 steps ahead. I found that the magic number is 3. You carefully identify your 3 zigs and zags. You hit that first one, then you add and sequence the next zig and zag. And what we've discovered is this slows you down. It actually allows you to meander around the big, crazy obstacles exactly like you would when you're coming to school today, so you don't end up hitting your classmates or running into the Harmon building or something. And it allows you to kind of meander and work around and work your way into the end destination. I used to be very critical of that group. I'm not critical of them anymore because they're attempting to avoid being the second group of entrepreneurs. The second group of entrepreneurs are, okay, all in, we're going to do it. As a matter of fact, when I gave the little 5-minute lecture the other day, I heard a couple of kids in the wings talking about, let's just rent everything, get all the money and go for it, dude. And it's like, okay, well, I'm all in. Run to Vegas, get halfway there, bet it all on black. Oh, it doesn't work out, you've destroyed your life. I'm all about not destroying your life. I'm all about increasing odds. That model scares the snot out of me. So group number 1 is trying to avoid group number 2. There's only one worse scenario, and it's group number 3, and it's the biggest losses I've had in my life. Set a crazy big hairy goal out there, race directly to it, and by the time you get there, the target's moved. I love my iPhone. Everyone's got an iPhone. Hold your iPhone up. I love my iPhone 4. Let's build an iPhone 4. Who wants to build an iPhone? Anyone want to? We got $2 billion, $3 billion to develop an iPhone, right? Is that about how much it's going to take? Okay, let's build it. 2 years later, we get to it. What's happened? What's happened by the time we get this iPhone built? You guys are looking at me like I'm crazy. I am crazy, but you know what? I hope I'm making sense. What's happened? It's out of date. Apple's got iPhones or something that's wired to our brain, and it's dialing in the middle of the night in your sleep. Right? That's what's going to happen. And that's one of the dangers of really aggressively charging at targets. And then there's the fourth group that actually do end up hitting the target. And the odds are really, really low that that'll happen. That's the YouTubes and the Facebooks and you know, a lot of those scenarios. And I'd argue that a lot of entrepreneurs are much more successful by carefully and very deliberately and pragmatically zigzagging their way into it. And it's not as sexy, but you control the business. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through the next phase, and it's the guidance system. It's one of my favorite portions. The guidance system is the guardrails. Here's the fear that most people have. Okay, big hairy goal, assess my resources, going for it. Okay, I'm going to zigzag like you said, Rich. How did that feel? That didn't feel very good either, did it? End up diverting yourself someplace you never intended to go. That's the E-Myth, the technician. I assume all of you have read the E-Myth, right? The technician, that's what that describes, is the guy that gets in the weeds and can never get out of it. And indeed, that's a frustrating situation. So you have to put guardrails on it. We didn't show a skiing video of a guy not going down the mountain, but going and skiing and hitting his head against the trees and breaking his neck. So you have to put guardrails on your zigs and your zags. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to run at this business. I'm going to run at it for 3 months like crazy. I'm going to allocate $5,000 to it. I'm not going to expose all of my relationship capital to it. I'm only going to expose these 5 key individuals to it, and this is how much I'm going to allocate time frame. And then what do? Okay, I can get my brain around that. Oh, go like crazy. Oh, man, I didn't hit it. Oh, that really stunk. Okay, dust myself off. And go again. That's how I've been able to do 33 businesses. I still fell. I just fell far more efficiently than the average guy. Because what are most people doing? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and then they wake up one day and they say, that was really a stupid idea and I never should have done it in the first place, and they've wasted half their life. So it's okay to fail. Please fail. Go out and all of you fail, but just fail efficiently. There's a second level of guardrails. And the second level is what I call my intervention network. It's the things that you absolutely won't do. And everybody should have different things there. A few of mine is I don't sign personal guarantees on the company I don't own at least 50% of. There's a story there. And I don't do that. I don't put my house at risk. I don't put my family at risk anymore. I don't do porn sites and gambling sites or anything that violates my conscience. I personally don't do multi-level marketing in any form or fashion. Those are a couple of my intervention second level of guardrails. And if I ever get to the point I'm crashing through those, I have an intervention network, which includes my wife, typically a business partner, my attorney, and my accountant, and they have rights to say, Rich, intervention on your behalf, you're crashing those guardrails, go back and let's get you off this bad drug because you've got to get control of your life. So it's important that you put guardrails in place. All right. The last one is hidden treasures. So you've got to ask yourself, this all sounds logical and great and wonderful, but think about how difficult it is to go through these different behaviors. How do you get yourself to go through these different behaviors? Zig number 1, I forget, Maximus? Is that Maximus? I'm going to do it. At all costs, I'm going to do it. Oh, I'm going to do it. Chase them out on the tree. Then you go to phase 2. Rah, rah, go team. Good luck. Good luck with that. Ooh, make a few mistakes. Document your processes. How'd you switch yourself into that mindset? And then the hardest of all is the Sicilian, the thoughtful Sicilian.
Inconceivable. Inconceivable. Inconceivable.
Inconceivable, you bested my Spaniard, you beat my giant, inconceivable. You have to become all thoughtful. How do you switch yourself from Maximus to rah rah, go team, to inconceivable, I'm thoughtful, I'm deliberate, I don't drink my hiking powder. How do you go through those 3 emotions in a year? Indeed, Curtis has led his team through that entire emotion and switch in 3 years, and here's the answer. I wish I had bought my posters. Matter of fact, maybe they're in there. Curtis, you want to? No, I think they're right there. I'm going to just, when they gave a lecture this weekend, I had them in there. Let's see if they're still there. Here they are. All right. Find me oh, there we go. All right. We as humans are nothing more than Pavlov's salivating dogs. If you put a chunk of meat out there in front of us, we'll go to it. Okay, here's one of Curtis's. iPad 2. Who wants an iPad 2? Every member of Curtis's team has earned an iPad 2 in the last year. iPad 2. If you get to Book Japan, $35,000 in profit and get all your processes, so it's obviously this zigzag he's on, 30 days out, you get an iPad 2. Everyone, oh really? Those 3 things and we get an iPad 2? Charge to it, charge to it. Celebrate. Everyone gets an iPad 2. Yay! We hit it. Oh, wonderful. Now, team, the skills it took to get to this are dramatically different than being the Sicilian. The next zig is going to require us to be very thoughtful, very deliberate in our approaches. If you keep doing this, we're going to crash our guardrails and we're going to end up dead. So the next reward is going to be 2 free round-trip tickets to anywhere you want in the United States. And it has to happen in 30 days, and you have to be at $60,000 in product, and you have to close these 2 vendors. Really? Okay, well, I won't be a cheerleader anymore. I'll be the Sicilian. Charge directly to that goal. See how that works? I use that trick against myself even. I'll tell myself, I'm going to go like crazy, and if I do this for the next hour and call these 5 people, I can go out and sit on the bench and look at the ducks for 5 minutes. So treat yourself and your team and align your goals with rewards that inspires panting dogs chasing towards them. All right, so let's just real quickly, I've got 6 minutes left and one last little section that I want to close on before we wrap it up. Walk through me the 9 steps so far. Number 1. Number 2. Come on, guys. Can't stand all these. Energy level up. 3. 4. 5. Very good. 6. Very good. Next one. Scale. Very good. And now we got the guardrails. Guardrail 1. Guardrails? Great guardrails. Okay, that's good. Ooh, good question. And how'd you get to sequence yourself? Hidden treasures. All right, very good. There's one final thing that I really like to talk about, and this is a really important part of business. I call it the all or nothing trap. I don't live my life also in a straight line. The concept of an entrepreneur of wake up at 6, exercise, do my scripture study, eat breakfast, go to work, oh, hour lunch break, oh, home by 5, kiss the wife and kids. That's not my life. Here's my life. Sleep, work like crazy, so hard that I think I'm going to absolutely die. Okay, take my wife on a cruise and sleep for 14 hours for a week. Come back, hardcore on my ecclesiastical responsibilities. Oh, now, hardcore now back, focused on work. Oh, now, intense time with the kids, take them to the Himalayas. I cross the line of balance as frequently as possible, but I think as an entrepreneur, it's really difficult to live a sequenced life. So that's another part of zigzagging. There is one element, however, I really want to drive home, particularly to you as students. There are certain things in your life that you just should not be willing to do. And one of them is to sacrifice the most important things in your life. I learned this lesson the hard way. I grew up in a rural community where there was 2,000 of us, if you count the dogs and the pigs and the chickens and the cows and everything, and I was bound and determined to be a CEO of a major company. And I was willing to do anything to do it. I set that goal when I was young, and I charged for it with everything I was worth. I got my engineering degree over here from the engineering college, and then I got my MBA here, and I was on this path, and I was charging, I was all about it, and I got my first really huge break towards that midway through my corporate career, and it was working for Mitsubishi Electric's PC division. I was the general manager of that company, the youngest general manager in the history of the company, and I was going to earn my stripes at all cost. I was sleeping under my desk 2 nights a week. I was traveling a couple of 100,000 miles a year. I was flying all over the country. I mean, I was shaking and baking, and I was going to make that happen at all costs. And just as we had got that launch, my mentor, Dr. Peter Horn, called me up, or his executive admin called me and says, Dr. Horn would like to have a chat with you, which meant me going up to Salt Lake, jumping on a plane, going to Atlanta, bouncing over to Amsterdam, then in Amsterdam across the channel into Birmingham. 22 and a half hours later, I arrived in Dr. Horn's office, and his admin ushers me in, and I sit down, and this is the conversation that we had. Rich, we're delighted with your progress in the U.S. market. Indeed, you've cracked it. We've made it. Congratulations sincerely to you and your entire team for this noble accomplishment. Now I would like to have a personal conversation with you. Rich, you can replace anything in this world. You can replace a job. You can replace money. You can replace a car. You can replace anything in this world. But there are 3 things that you cannot replace. You cannot replace your health. You cannot replace your trust relationships. At most, go home, and if you're in work in the next 2 weeks, you're fired. It was a very long 22 and a half hour plane ride home. I thought of all the things that I had done and how I'd been living my life. Several years prior, I had been over to India and brought back with me a terrible disease called pertussis, whooping cough. We'd all been immunized, but I brought it back and shared it with my entire family. I was coughing, thinking I was going to die. All my sons were thinking they were going to die, and I had a young son named Nathan Vaughn that had also caught that. He was a baby. It's life-threatening for babies. My wife had spent 2 weeks in intensive care unit with my youngest son, Nathan Vaughn. Where do you think I was during all of this? I was off being fabulous. I was off sleeping under my desk, proving it, earning my stripes. I thought about this, and when I got home, I went rushing in to pick Nathan Vaughn up. He was fast asleep in his bed. I picked him up. He looked at me, screamed, and pushed me away. That was the moment I quit the corporate world. That was the moment that I formally quit the corporate world. It took me several years to actually get out of the corporate world to become an entrepreneur. But I want to tell you with all boldness and with all sincerity that there's a lot of things that just aren't worth it in life. If you're doing entrepreneurship or doing business for money only, or to be all fabulous or to earn your stripes, please rethink it. And let me strongly counsel you that the most important things in life are exactly what Dr. Horn told me. Number 1, you can't replace your health. Number 2, your trust relationships. And number 3, and most importantly, is your family. I'm very proud to announce that my son Nathan now calls me his hero. And indeed, he was one of the young men that we saw in the earlier slide with the Himalayas. So guys, I just want to tell you with boldness, zigzagging is a natural law. It's a way that you can dramatically increase your probability of success. It's a way that you can control your financial future. And most importantly, is it's a way that you can get started now. And I don't care if you get started with $50, $500, $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000. I don't care. But I hope if there's been one thing that has occurred here today is the confidence that I can even start with a little bit, go form my own LLC, and take control of my financial future, my personal future, and most important, just take control of life, because there's no better way than being an entrepreneur. So I challenge you to do good and make a difference in this world, and go forward and zigzag. Thank you.